On today's episode, we'll discuss how the operator and the script supervisor's jobs overlap, the importance of the line in westerns, Knives Out, The Harder They Fall, and of course, the Starbucks cup in the Game of Thrones. Just a little bit of business before we start. There may be a curse word here or there in this episode, so please listen responsibly. As always, our website, theop.io, is up and chock full of tips, tricks, and gooey operator goodness. Make sure to check out The Breakdown, where the best operators in the biz explain shots they have done, The Musings, where we discuss everything from quick tips to larger concepts of storytelling, the answers, the images, and so much more. I may or I may not take a break or two during this episode, but I promise that none of them will be longer than 22 seconds. Finally, if you are enjoying the podcast, please follow us, write a review, share us with your parents, and talk us up around the water cooler with your friends. So grab a beverage, sit back, and enjoy the op. Thanks for listening.
Lock it up, nice and quiet, and let's roll.
Rolling.
Victor 30 Echo, take 2.
Hey, Mark. Hey, Mark.
And camera set. And action.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Op Podcast, the podcast where we talk about operating and the art of visual storytelling. I am Dave Comides, your host, and a little different today because actually I'm recording this over an app that I haven't used before, so we'll see how this goes. But I'm very excited because I am talking to Jessica Lichtner, who is a script supervisor. She is actually in New York, which is why we're over the app today. And Jessica and I was lucky enough to work with her on a movie called The Harder They Fall. But in addition to that, her list of credits it's quite amazing, and includes, among other things, Killers of the Flower Moon, West Side Story, The Harder They Fall, which I mentioned, The Irishman, Knives Out, The Post, John Wick, The Twilight Saga, Breaking Dawn. The list just goes on and on. I would be here for a long time if I if I said everything. So Jessica, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Oh, well, thanks for having me.
I'm sorry about all the we had some serious technical issues before this, so I apologize for all that. But
it was like being on the set and trying to figure out how to solve some problem.
That's right. Yeah. And something that's worked constantly and suddenly doesn't work. And you're like, well, we got to do it anyway. So yeah, exactly. So before we go into other stuff, can you tell me exactly what the job of the script supervisor is?
Yes. It's hard to describe what a script supervisor does because it's different on every job. So I always say if a film crew were a baseball team, the script supervisor is the shortstop, who, runs this a little bit this way, runs a little bit that way, depending on who the other players are and how the ball's been hit.
Okay. All right.
More or less, a script supervisor is the liaison between the editor and the director.
Okay.
We take notes. We're compiling a catalog of everything that's shot and recorded for the editor, for them to use in post-production, and for other departments to use in post-production. We are guarding the script. We are responsible for continuity in its many forms, including storyline continuity, hair, makeup, wardrobe continuity, prop continuity, and action matching for cuts.
Mm-hmm.
And we're also there to advise the director on other matters of editing, including shot selection, sequencing, how things eventually will or won't cut together. I mean, we do all of those things. We also track the production.
What do you mean by track the production?
We keep track every day of how many pages that we shoot in the script and how many are left to shoot.
Sure.
How many scenes we've done and how many are left to do, that sort of thing. We write down the time we're all supposed to be at work, the time we take our first shot, the time we eat lunch. Mm-hmm. And all of those records are used for people's time cards. It has to do with how people get paid. And also for production, their studio or streamer. We're their eye that way on what happens every day.
Gotcha. It's interesting that you say that you're the liaison between the director and the editor, because the second you said that, I went, oh my God, that's absolutely right. But I never really thought of it like that because I see what you're doing. Well, I mean, I don't see what you're doing on set because you're usually back behind the monitor and we see each other occasionally, but I know what you're doing on set, but that makes perfect sense. So basically you're you're keeping notes with the director to go, and that's why you're circling takes, right? To say this is the best take and that's the alternate take or whatever, so that the editors have an idea of what to do, putting the assembly together before the director gets there.
Yes, because if you think about on on the set, a lot of people keep records. You know, the mixer, the sound mixer, the person
Hmm.
who's recording the sound is keeping a record of takes. The camera assistants are keeping a record of takes. Um, but the script supervisor is the only person on the set who's recording what the director thinks,
Interesting.
and
And
that is crucial.
sure. Well, I would imagine, especially because there are things that come on the spot that they may not remember down the line or remember exactly what they were wanted to do, and you can just look that back up and remind them, right?
Right. So every day when the editor gets, well, the assistant gets the footage and they start to, log all the information using whatever script notes program and Avid program that they're using. Usually it's FileMaker Pro, but nonetheless, they're logging what the director has thought about every take.
Hmm.
My method is that I write down exactly what the director says. So if the director says, that was bullshit and I never want to see that again, I write down that was bullshit and he never wants to see it again.
That's great. You must have some very colorful notes for
I do.
some of these
It's
threads.
fun. It's actually very funny. But because part of what I try to do is give the editor the feeling of being on the set with us.
Hmm.
And
Gotcha.
it's telling the story of the setups, which is, a camera position that we're shooting. I'm trying to tell the editor what happened as we went along. So it isn't just that take 4 was the best one. It's like, well, what was wrong with take 3? What was wrong with take 2? And in some ways, what's wrong with things ends up being much more important in post production. Because if you're looking for a glance or a look or something special to edit into the scene, let's say, you might pull something from another take, but you're not going to pull from the one where it says the focus is no good.
Now, do you talk to the assistant editor daily, or is it just like notes back and forth, or?
I hope I don't talk to them daily because
Okay, well,
that
I don't
means
know.
things are going
Oh,
wrong.
okay. So you only talk to them when there are problems. I see. So you're not
Well,
getting updates.
mostly.
But that said, as production goes on, are you getting updates of like, hey, we still need that insert from blah 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 or whatever? I mean, are they keeping track of that and making sure that things are happening?
Yes, usually I will have to initiate a conversation or an email chain about that when we start getting into places where we're going to start running out of time if we don't do them.
Oh, I
Um,
gotcha. Yep.
but we have our own list on the set where the director's like, you know what, we really should take an insert of that letter, but we don't have time.
Yep.
But the editor also obviously has his or her own list of things where the editor's thinking, well, why didn't they shoot
Yep.
blank?
Hmm.
And then we put those lists together and then we prioritize them and hopefully get them all done, but at least get the most important ones done.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. And so when you say you're the shortstop, is it
Yeah.
is it because with some directors you're much more involved, and some directors you're just a fly on the wall? I mean, is it the director and the show that changes, or is it what they want?
Uh, yes. It also has to do with other members of the crew. Um, you can have a director of photography who's um, has a lot of ideas. You can have a director of photography who has no ideas.
Hmm.
So with the director is the only one with the ideas and you see that something's missing, it then falls to you to say something.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So basically, you're sort of going, I know that we need this. I'm going to see if it comes from somewhere else. And if it doesn't, then I'll probably step in and say, hey, do you think we need this, or something like that?
Yes. And then each director is completely different, even down to I one director I work with. You cannot talk right after he says cut, because he will then forget what he's going to say.
Yeah, sure. That makes sense.
So you have to remember that the next time you work with him, that when he says cut, you just have to sit there completely quiet until he says whatever was on his mind.
Yeah.
And I have another director who, when he says cut, I literally have 1 second to say something's wrong with the take, or he's like gotten up and is going to another location. He's like, goodbye, everybody. I'll see you, uptown.
He's
And
in the car.
yes. So, you have to remember that, and you have to, sometimes I make mistakes and I mix those two people up, and that's funny
Sure.
to me.
But
I don't think they think it's funny.
yeah, do you have like a little Rolodex of like notes on these people if you haven't worked for them in a while to remind yourself, or you just hope you
No,
remember?
I remember. I
Okay.
remember, like, especially the first time I mistake one for the other and they glare at me and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Uh-oh, I talked and now nobody knows what the director was going to say.
That's hysterical. It's like you get one mistake on day one, and then you better figure it out. That's great. So how'd you get into this? What was your career path like?
Well, like so many people in our business, I got started somewhat by accident.
Yeah.
Um, I I had a career. I worked in the theater from the time I was pretty young, actually, and I always say that my career and I were losing interest in each other at the same time.
I like that.
And but the big question was what to do next. And because many people that work in the theater doing musicals, which is what I was doing, start pretty young. And so you sort of miss that period of time where you look around and see what else is out there.
And when you say
So
working in the theater, do you mean it as an actress?
I was a singer, and
Oh,
I
okay.
performed on stage in musicals, in musical
Cool.
comedies.
Wow.
Yeah. And so anyway, the what used to be called the Actors Fund, but is now called the Entertainment Community Fund,
Hmm.
sponsored it was outplacement counseling. It was for people that wanted to get out of the business, but kind of didn't know how.
Yeah.
And I went through the whole time, and I was having a wonderful time, and I really enjoyed meeting all the other people. And I'm not coming up with any ideas of what I'm going to do next. And finally, a guy in the group who had done some production said to me, I think you should be a script supervisor.
Huh.
And I said, okay, because at least that was an idea.
Yeah.
And I just so happened that a woman, I was in LA at the time, and there was a woman who taught script supervising, and I signed up for her class. And it's going to sound like I'm making this up, but like from the minute she started explaining it, I thought, I love this.
That's
She was
amazing.
right. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what was it that you loved? I mean, are you like an organized person in normal life? It just appealed to you, or what was it that you liked?
The storytelling.
Okay.
I love to read. I love stories. I love the movies. I always loved the movies ever since I was like a little kid.
Uh-huh.
I just couldn't wait to see more movies. I love plays. I love stories, and it combined so many different elements of things. I like to explain things. I like things to work out. I, I don't mind keeping track of things. I like to be in the middle of everything, but not in charge of it. It's kind of
Hmm.
perfect for me.
Yeah. No, that's great. That all makes perfect sense. So how what this was just like this woman in between jobs gave classes or what?
No, she was actually a very successful script supervisor. She had been the script supervisor. Her name was Betty Goldberg. She had been the
Uh-huh.
script supervisor on lots and lots of things, including Beverly Hills Cop,
Uh-huh.
and had, started herself in the business from nowhere and rose up very high. But she had a child, and she decided, I don't want to be on
There
the
you go.
set 14 hours a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so she started teaching, and we would go to her garage in Beverly Hills, and we learned how to break down a script. We learned how to, we learned it all. And at the end of the time of this class, which was over a couple of months, once a week, she took two of us and she said, "You guys can really do this, and I believe in you, and I'm going to help you get started." And she did.
Oh, that's amazing.
It was
And
amazing.
and what a great feeling for you to go, okay, someone thinks that I've got what it takes. That's great. Wow.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
and so did she get, I mean, did she get, were you ready? Were you like, did you know enough to jump on a movie and actually do the job, or was it still there an apprenticeship aspect to it?
Well, I did practice. I did industrial, like movies they make for schools and that kind of. I don't even know if they
Yeah,
do that anymore, but they used to do that, and
sure.
like on
Yeah.
16 millimeter.
Yep. Okay.
And I did a lot of AFI student films.
Okay.
And then when she and we I would continue to show her my notes and my work, and we would talk about what happened. And when she felt like I had practiced enough, which wasn't really that long,
Uh,
she recommended me for a job because she was known for people looking for, inexpensive script supervisors. And I got my first feature, which was a Roger Corman movie.
Another Roger Corman. It's
Yeah.
amazing how many people came out of Roger Corman. Do you remember what it was?
Yes, it was called In the Heat of Passion.
Ah, fantastic.
Yes, it and it was we made it out in the studio space out in Venice.
Hmm. Yep, that was like
And
a complete death trap. I mean, that place was crazy. It's unbelievable to me.
yeah,
Oh
I mean,
boy.
think about like going into the editing room with all this flammable film strip
Oh,
pieces
go.
hanging all over it, it's terrifying. But the DP was Wally Pfister.
Oh wow, that's great.
So it was, I still remember seeing Memento in the theater
Hmm.
and seeing his name come up at the end and just being completely flabbergasted because I hadn't known what happened to him since and vice
Oh, that's
versa.
cool. Yeah.
And, I remember us sitting on the back of the camera truck and talking about like what we would do if the whole thing didn't work out.
Ah, that's so great. That just goes to show everybody out there starting out. Everybody started out, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
and none of us had any idea. Oh, that's fantastic. That's very cool. So did you? I mean, did you feel like you knew what you were doing, or were you still learning, or what was that like?
Well, I'm still learning now.
Yeah,
I mean,
I get you. Yeah.
so, um, no, I was extremely well trained.
Hmm.
Extremely. I mean, this is something that is a little bit lacking for today's younger script supervisors, and through no fault of their own,
Hmm.
they're many of them are not getting the right training, and it makes it very hard when you're starting out. I was so well trained that to the point of I remember being on the set and seeing a cup in the corner, and Betty had said, "What I'm about to say to you isn't going to make any sense until you're on your first professional set. Look for cups."
Now it's water bottles, but yeah,
Right.
that makes perfect sense. But let me ask you a question. You went and you took this class, and clearly it set you up, but most people didn't do that, right? I mean, how did most people become script supervisors?
You learn from a union script supervisor.
So you like apprentice with them or something, or I mean,
Yes, I mean
yeah,
somewhat. And like one of my very best friends who is still also a script supervisor, she was in the AD department and she
okay.
wasn't feeling it. And she was looking around and she kept kind of gravitating toward the script supervisor. And she asked that script supervisor to train her.
Hmm.
And the script supervisor did.
Gotcha.
And I don't know what their financial arrangement was, but even now there's online classes. There's that are taught by script supervisors. Some script supervisors, including me, teach privately.
Hmm.
It's you can read books about script supervising, but I'm not sure that at the end of reading it, you actually would know what to do when you got to the set.
Sure. Sure. So it's really almost like, again, if you're a PA and you want to be in the camera department and you're off time, you go and you ask them to teach you something and ask them what they're doing. I mean, you just be inquisitive and try to learn on set what you can.
Yeah.
And yeah, makes perfect sense. Do you remember, were there I mean, what was the hardest part about that first movie, doing that movie for you? What was it figuring out the I mean, not specific to the movie because it was a Roger Corman movie, so there's probably a lot of that. But
Yeah.
I can hear in your laugh. No, but I mean, was it sort of figuring out the different personalities? Because I would imagine that especially how you first set it up, that's probably a big part of your job that I don't think about, is like you're constantly sort of going, okay, this person might get a little ruffled when I give a suggestion, so maybe I have to hold that back for a different time, or there's a lot of politics there, right?
Yes, I though the early movies though, I was so consumed with describing shots correctly in my
Oh,
notes,
interesting.
something that becomes second nature to you, as you do it a lot and you start to understand that there are certain shots you're going to do in every movie, and
Gotcha. Yep.
here it is, and you know how to describe it. I
Uh-huh.
was consumed with that. I was consumed with screen direction.
Hmm.
The first movies, it was really all about me for me,
Sure. I get it.
and I didn't get too involved and in some ways that probably was helpful because there were some shenanigans going on, but I was still figuring out like how to adequately describe the master, so I couldn't
Yeah.
get involved.
So you're clueless to it. No, I totally get it. Now to that point, I have to ask you, so if you went back and looked at your notes from that first movie, were you writing volumes about every shot? Whereas now you would have just, it's some shorthand that you have?
No, I would say my notes are probably more detailed now.
Oh, interesting.
There's most script supervisors, or the way I was taught to take notes was not to gum up the notes that go to the editor with information they don't need.
Uh-huh.
So who's looking left to right and who's looking right to left and who crossed over here and did that is in my scratch script. We keep a script, or we used to. I don't know what people do now, but this is what I do. I still do it. I have
Yeah,
a paper script and I write things down in pencil. And those notes are for me. So that if we
gotcha.
go back to a reshoot, I mean, the editor's looking at the footage. If why are you writing down that the person's looking left to right? They can see
I
that.
I never would have thought of that until you said that. Of course, because they have the visual information, so you don't have to say he picks up the cup with his left hand because they see that he picks up the cup with his left hand. But if you go back, you need to be able to quickly grab that information. That's amazing. Yeah. Um,
Yes. And also, I would say they, right. So, what Betty taught us, and what to this day, I mean, I think so many times of her, because this is what I'm saying about being well trained, it
mhm.
follows you through your whole career. The only time they care about if someone's matching is if they're not doing it.
But the only time they care about someone's matching is if they're yeah, so you don't have to say it's the same thing because you assume. You just say this time
Right.
they picked it up with the right. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Well, basically, you only need to flag something if it needs to be flagged. I
Yeah.
mean, which is a silly thing to say, but it makes a lot of sense because otherwise your notes are 5 volumes long and there's not a lot of information in there that they need. Yeah, that's incredible. So basically, then as the take is going, are you just constantly writing? It's
Yeah.
funny because I know that you're there and you're probably sometimes 5 feet away from me, but I don't actually know what you're doing at the moment because, of course, I'm on the camera. So you're just constantly taking notes. And is it all? Are most people doing it digitally now?
Yes, I mean, I also do digital notes, but I do them after the fact. For me, there's a real connection between my brain and writing.
Yes. Well, I mean, there are studies about this actually that you have better cognition if you write things down as opposed to digital. So that makes
Right.
sense. Yeah.
So I have my own kind of notation. I make a mark when a person stops. I make a mark when a person stands or sits. Because
Huh.
in editing, you're looking for, or the style of editing we mostly use now, you're looking for big body moves because that's where they're going to cut, because it tricks the eye into accepting the image change.
Hmm. That makes sense. Oh, interesting.
Um, so For me, actually just making the mark with the pencil puts it into my brain so much that I sometimes don't even look at what I wrote. It was the act of noticing it enough to write it, to make the mark, that
Oh,
makes me
wow.
remember.
Huh. Oh, that's really interesting. And actually, it's fascinating that you say big body moves and edits because I think I know that, but I never sort of thought of it in that vein. And uh, it just makes me think about camera movement and movement within the frame very differently all of a sudden. That's fascinating. Um, so so do you? I mean, over the years, do you ever go into editing? Are you ever involved in that process, or are you pretty much just hear my notes and call me if you need something?
Well, I don't do it anymore, but when I
Yeah.
first started, especially at Roger Corman's, you know, scary, scary studio space, I used to,
Which is what it should be called.
yeah,
Yeah.
I used to, when the day was over, I would go to editing because
Just
there is no way for you. So, one very interesting thing about being a script supervisor is you don't know when something's wrong sometimes until it's too late. And
oh
you don't know
yeah,
that your judgment was incorrect.
yeah.
I mean, as you get further in your career, hopefully you're making less and less mistakes in
Of
judgment.
course. Yeah, yeah.
But at the beginning, you're making them all the time.
But when you say in judgment, what can you give me an example of what that would be?
Yes, well, matching is a good one. When is
Oh.
it? When is the matching so far off they won't be able to use the take?
Where's the line, basically? Yeah, yeah. And well, look, that reminds me of there are things that I remember. I mean, in the harder they fall, I'm sure we did it. That I come up to the script supervisor all the time. I go, you think we're going to get away with this? Like, are we pushing it
Right.
too much? And yeah,
Exactly.
we're constantly having because there's that thing of you never want to like, just handcuff an actor, but at the same time, you don't want to go down that road. So yeah, I see what you mean by judgment calls. That makes perfect sense. Um, yeah.
So you have to make the decision, or you know what, line crossing and that kind of thing,
Hmm.
all of that. So you make eye line trajectories, the bane of your and my existence, or the fun of our
Hmm.
existence, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, you make your decision, and then I would go to editing, and they would be putting together the footage, from the day before, and I could see the result of my thinking.
So basically, it's like the checks and balances. Like, oh yeah, I got that right. I could be a little more careful on that. Whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Interesting. And did you do that for a couple of movies, or I mean, like, how long did it take till you went? I think I got this.
Well, I mean, I still have times when I will write a note to the editor and say, "Will you put this scene together, please?"
Yeah. Just
You
because you're
know?
concerned, you're like,
Yeah.
you put it together so I can. I got you. And it must just get to the point where you just have a gut feeling of like, I can totally sign off on this scene because it's a no brainer, but this is the one I'm worried about.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
does that still happen? Because I mean,
Yes.
you're on a pretty advanced level now. So
Well, I mean, I'm not worried that, Martin Scorsese doesn't know how the scene's going to go together.
yeah, he probably does, right?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, no, but I don't only work with those directors. Well, you and I were working with a first time director.
Sure. Yeah, yeah. And a
You know,
first time director who was extremely creative and wasn't necessarily tied into the things that we all worry about, right?
yeah.
So it's I guess that's one of those things where with certain directors you have to push in one direction and certain directions. I mean, like for instance, James, there was never a problem with coming up with an idea because he had tremendous ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah, that yeah, that's really so from show to show, you must have to sort of like completely. I don't want to use the word reinvent, but it's like put the brakes on certain things and pull the stops on other things depending on what you need or what
Right.
they need from you.
You're the shortstop.
Yeah. And do you are you involved in I don't know, this is a ridiculous question that I don't know this. Are you involved in pre-production at all, or do you just show
Oh,
up?
yeah.
uh,
Oh,
Okay, you
no.
are. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, the very first thing we do is we get the script, and you read scripts, while it would seem so much second nature for someone just to write down, scene 25 the next day, they never do that. So
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
the first thing we do is we take the script and we sort out the days, the continuity days and nights, and the amount of time that happens in between the scenes, and we point out the mistakes in logic where somebody's saying yesterday I something, and but really when you read the script it was a
Ah,
week ago. We
uh,
do all of that. That's the first thing we do because everybody's waiting for that breakdown because that's what goes on the one liner. That's what the wardrobe uses to know how many
sure.
costumes to have for somebody.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And it's
Yeah.
very complicated. It can be extreme. I mean, in The Irishman was 240 something scenes
Oh my God.
over like 20 something years. So,
Yeah, yeah. So you basically have almost like a calendar of how everything works. And
yeah.
do you find over time that really the biggest problems are just because I would imagine that the biggest problems come out because of like rewrites and stuff like
Oh,
that where
yeah.
they change something but there's still 10% that they didn't. And oh, that's fascinating. Now to ask you and maybe I'm wrong that this would be crazy, but it would seem like a movie for some reason I sort of feel like a movie like Knives Out must have been tough in that because of what the movie is and the structure of it, or am I wrong?
Uh, I had some questions, but in a whodunit and a thriller, obviously, and Ryan's an incredible writer.
Yeah,
He's spent a lot of time, and it was so clever. I mean, all the really clever parts of it, were there from the minute I read the script. So then I'm going to come in
gotcha.
with my really irritating questions, which I try to keep down to less than 10, so the director doesn't get scared, when he
Sure,
first
sure,
meets
sure.
you.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Um, but I'm going to say, is this supposed to be happening at the same time as that? Because I mean, it's, in some ways, like a thriller, it's more important.
Well, that's why I asked because I mean, and again, he's a great writer. So actually, now that I think about
Yes.
it, it probably was pretty there by the time you got to it.
Yes.
But it almost seems like with well, that movie specifically because it's so sort of it's one of those movies that at the end it's like, oh, wait a minute, blah 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 blah. It all has
Right.
to add up. Like it doesn't seem like there's a lot of room for error. So I was thinking maybe you have to almost go through it with more of a fine tooth comb to make sure all those pieces are there, and that and I think part of it is probably not well. Did you write it correctly? But is it being perceived correctly? Right? Because you're almost the
Yes.
first audience in a way.
Yes. Exactly. Yes, that's
Interesting.
exactly right. So many times what you're saying to the director is, or, and sometimes you end up not doing it with the director. Certain directors just don't want to do it.
Don't want
So
to
you'll
hear it.
do
Yeah.
it with the AD and the writer. And
Mhm.
you'll say, and they'll say, well, this, XYZ. And you're like, I know, but listen to, listen to me say this.
Yeah.
Doesn't this sound like I'm saying,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the thing is they've seen it, it's been in them. They've lived with it for so long. They don't understand what it's like to be hearing it for the first time. It's been, so for some of them, years.
Sure. No, that makes look. I mean, again, to go back to it, how long? I think James wrote "The Harder They Fall" 18 years before he made it. Am I right
Yeah,
on that, or something ridiculous like that?
something like
And s-
that.
a- and I remember I would talk to him about stuff, and we would change things. And one of the things that amazed me about him was he had it in his head for 18 years, and he absolutely knew that this is the way it was going to be. But then when we got there on the day, not always, but sometimes like something would change, and he would go with it if it worked. That always kind of amazed me. But
Yes, but he's a very special
he is, yeah. No, no, no.
filmmaker, and
Yeah.
um, you know, he's an amazing combination of somebody who loves the classic films, and I can relate to him that way, of him being a small child and watching all these
Oh,
classic
yeah.
films just like I did,
Yeah.
combined with an of the moment sensibility.
Yep. No,
That's
no,
a
no
very rare
question about it.
combination.
Yeah, 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 yeah. He was a joy to work with.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, going back to what you were saying about talking about logic, which is so this sort of fascinates me because again, it's a part that I never see. So it's sort of like, wow, these must be interesting conversations. Is it, and maybe there's nothing to this, is it easier to work with a writer to change things than with a director who's written the script themselves?
No, it's the
No,
same.
it's the
It
same.
more
Okay.
has to do with the person's willingness
Yeah.
to be collaborative.
Hmm.
and obviously you're treading very lightly. You're not, running and going like, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But there are people who don't like to collaborate,
Yeah.
and they are in every area of our business, surprisingly.
Yeah. No, that's true. And well, it occurs to me that you're also, going into someone and going, "Hey, this screenplay that's been in your head for 8 years and you've been pushing to get made and it's finally getting made. I have all sorts of problems with it, and I can explain that." I mean, that's a very interesting dance that you have to do, and I'm sure, uh, I would imagine it's something you're constantly working on, every show, right?
Yes, I always say that you try to you try as much as possible, and I don't always succeed, but the key to me is to present the information as though it is outside of you and outside of me. In
Yeah,
other words, I'm not
that's good.
attacking you.
Yep.
I'm not standing up for myself. I'm pointing out information. It's the same thing with camera placement and screen direction. It's
Mhm.
one thing to say, you put the camera in the wrong place. It's another
Yes.
thing to say, if the camera is there, we won't be able to use the eye line we just shot
Yep.
unless we are purposely crossing the line. So it's away from you, away from me. It's just information that we both should know.
Mhm.
And I try not to get too, attached to my point of view, but I'm going to have the classical point of view in every situation, including in prepping the script.
And so once you've done that, and do you time the script as well? Is
Yeah.
that you? Yeah, okay. So you basically make sure that if it's an hour and a half film, it's an hour and a half film or whatever. And how do you do that? Because I mean, it's like the classic Ben-Hur they race, right? One eighth of a
Yes.
page or whatever. I mean, how do you
Well,
how do you
yeah.
how do you figure that out?
Well, that's the hardest.
Yeah.
The easiest is a movie where people never shut up, because then you just
You just read
talk.
like My Dinner with the
Yeah.
Hobbit is probably pretty easy to figure out
Yeah.
what that
Yeah.
is.
That would be the
Yeah.
perfect example.
Yeah.
Um, you you are wrong mostly.
Really.
Yeah. I mean, there's just no way. I mean, we all have an idea in our heads of how long a typical car chase probably is,
Yeah, sure. It's
unless
gonna
it's
get
Mission
boring after a
Impossible.
while. That's yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So
Um,
you guess, and you guess wrong a lot. The one thing that will help is if they would give you the storyboards sooner instead of waiting to give them to you later, because when you see the storyboards, you get a much better idea of how long something's going to be.
and so then I mean, you basically just let them know, like, look, this is an action movie, so I gave you my best guess on it, but I can't tell you right now how long these action sequences are going to play on screen because I don't quite know what they are.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really even say all that.
They
I
just
just turn
understand
my
that.
timing in, and if they don't understand it, what can I do about that? I mean, they
Sure.
must understand that it's all, and it's, to be honest, pre-timing is a minefield because it's very political in the sense that, you know, some people overwrite
Ah,
and
okay.
their idea is, well, we're going to shoot all of it and later I'm going to pare it down, which doesn't always work.
Yeah,
Sometimes it works, but you'll come out with a 2+ hour timing and they'll say, there's no way this movie is that long.
yeah. Wow.
And
That's
then they don't want the streamer or studio to see how long the movie actually is. So then it turns into like, can you shave? I'm going to cut right at as soon as somebody stops talking, there's all those kind of codes for make it shorter.
yeah. That's fascinating. That's a whole part of this that I never even understood. So how do you when I mean, you've worked with some huge names, obviously. Spielberg and Scorsese, right up there, and many other people. And I mean, do you go to all of them with the same kind of thing, or is everybody open to these ideas early on, or are people not? And I'm not asking you for specific names. I'm just saying, like, do you pull back with some people, going, they know what they're doing, they've been doing this long. I'm not about to tell them. what they probably know, or do you still sort of go in there and go, this looks like it times out a little differently than what we thought is, or this logic doesn't work.
I wouldn't talk about timing with either of those people,
Hmm.
actually, or most people. In fact, when I pre-time the script, which is just part of what we do in pre-production,
Yeah.
I don't tell anybody. I
Oh,
wait
you
for them
just
to ask for it
gotcha.
because
That
some
makes
people
sense.
don't care. Some people know the movie is long and they don't care.
Yeah.
Some people don't want to know because they don't want that in their head. There's lots of different
Sure.
ways that people feel about it. So I basically don't tell anybody until somebody asks. And then if it's a producer who's asking, I would always send it to the director
Hmm.
and ask them to give it to the producer or to give me permission to give it to the producer.
Again, so it's politics and playing the games sort of that come up. I don't mean games in a bad way, but they're all throughout the set. But
Yeah.
what about logic questions? I mean, because I guess what I'm getting at is like if I went in as the script supervisor, assuming I knew what I was doing, but I've got no whatever. I don't think I'm going to go up to Steven Spielberg or Scorsese and go, "This doesn't make sense here." I mean, hopefully I'd do
No.
it better than that. But I have to assume that, you've done enough things and you've worked with enough people that they must realize that if you're bringing something up, there's got to be some validity to it. So they should probably, just at least listen. I mean, do
Yeah.
you do you do you hesitate bringing things up sometimes because of the size of these people who you're working with?
Well, usually when somebody is that big and really they're the two biggest. I don't
Yeah,
work with anybody bigger than that, and not
yeah,
many other people do either.
yeah.
But
No, no, exactly.
they have a whole ecosystem in play. So
Sure.
with Marty in particular, who you know is very involved in every step of everything. He's not showing up and
Yeah, winging
finding
it.
things out. Yeah, winging it.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
No.
but he has a longtime researcher
Hmm.
who's worked with him 20 years. So, and I have complete access to her all the time,
Ah,
and we
okay.
will talk about it.
Yeah.
And she's a great sounding board because she uh, is also the other person. Well, she's actually been thinking about the script longer than I have.
That's what. Okay, so basically, but there's sort of a system of checks and balances in place that you can go through before it actually gets to the point where you're like, I think we really need to bring this up.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be the one
Yeah.
bringing it up, probably. I
Sure.
mean,
Yeah.
you know, it
Yep.
it would be somebody in the ecosystem that director likes to talk to about that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
So I'm going to present the issue. The intermediary person is going to decide whether and they've worked a lot longer with the person than me, and they're going to say, like, he will care about that, he won't care about that. And
Sure.
then they're going to occasionally we go together. Mostly they just go and I wait for the answer.
Hmm. Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. By the way, on a totally unrelated though, it seems like being Martin Scorsese's researcher for 20 years would be a really cool job.
Yeah. Oh, it's
um,
amazing. And she not
yeah.
only does she research everything for all the movies, and I mean, she is incredible. Like you could ask Marianne something about, like these unbelievably obscure things
That's
and
what I
she
figured,
will
right?
oh, it's unbelievable. But she also, like maintains his archives, and when there's exhibitions of his posters and different things, she handles all that.
Oh my
It's
gosh!
great.
Well, wow,
Yeah.
that's like I didn't even know this was a job. So that's that's very
Yeah,
cool.
that's a job.
That's really cool. So because you brought it up a couple times, and I want to talk specifically about these things. So working with a camera operator,
Yeah.
and you brought up eyeline, which to me is one of the bigger things that I think script supervisors are involved with in going back and forth. To me, it's like eyeline and continuity. Those are the two things that sort of come to mind. I personally always feel like if I'm not hearing a lot from the script supervisor, assuming they're good, then when I do, I should really pay attention to it because it means we've like really pushed it to such an. And I think I can't remember specifically, but I think there were a couple times where you came up to me and were like, we're supposed to be over here. And I realized that, I don't know, that was during COVID. So it's like, I haven't gotten enough oxygen, and I'm like, why is the camera over here? But that was always this big sort of like, oh my gosh. So my question for you is this. It's funny because what I always tell younger operators is, look, you absolutely have to understand eye line. And for anybody who's listening who doesn't understand this, when you shoot the master, which is the big wide sign of the big wide of the scene, you'll usually be, if you have two characters, there's an imaginary line between them. And if the camera is sort of to one side of them, you never cross over to the other. And the reason being because when you cut in editing, it can get confusing. But over the years, what I've come to, and it used to be when I started out, this was like a sacrosanct, like you never cross the line. And I think I think audiences have become more sophisticated, and I wonder whether you agree. And so now I sort of go, I always want to know where we have to be. And then if there's something that goes on the other side of that that works and isn't going to be confusing in the cut, clearly I'll check with the script supervisor, and clearly I'll check with the director and the DP. But it's not necessarily something we can't do. And I'm wondering, is that does that jive with sort of your feeling about the line, or
Well, like so many other things, it depends.
yeah.
I feel like my responsibility is to, uh, hold the strictest line in the sense of, so everyone understands if we were doing it classically, this is how we would do it.
Yeah, we're taking a chance by doing this other thing, sort of.
Well, it also depends on what it is. In an action movie, when you're in a car chase, nobody would in a million years expect you to stay on one side of the car.
That's true. Good point. Yeah. Yeah.
In a Western, which the entire idea of a Western is quite literally people facing off against each other,
Oh yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh.
that's the most classical kind of
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
If a guy is shooting and then we go to the other person and it looks like he's shooting in the same direction, you assume that someone's coming on horseback towards them.
Yes. Yeah. 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 Okay. It's funny. I didn't, and having worked on a Western with you, I never thought of it like that. But yeah, it's always Main Street, and they're facing each other, and you got to make sure,
Exactly.
especially when you cut into the close up of the eyes, that they're looking the correct direction.
Right,
Um,
because what you don't want is what you want is the audience to get very excited and very nervous.
mhm.
And the way to do that is to not let them for a minute think like, oh, what's he looking at? Like, because if you got two people facing each other, it's very clear they're facing each other and you're doing
Mhm.
all this coverage, and all of a sudden you jump to the other side of the line. Their brain thinks they're looking at something new.
Something new. But this goes to my thing of, I always look at each case going, would this confuse the audience?
Yeah. I mean,
And
sometimes you want to confuse them. You know
well, I
what?
was just,
If it
yeah,
doesn't matter, people wouldn't have for years in
sure.
horror films and thrillers and all broken it.
Yeah. Or the I think of The Insider, which did it amazingly well.
Right. Because
Yeah.
it's different.
But in that case,
Hmm.
from an operator's point of view, I mean, we have to come to you and go, hey, DP has talked to us. We are going to jump the line here, and everybody understands it, because knowing that the alarm bells are going to go off, and you need to be aware of that and make a note of it, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I would so go so far as to say that's part of my responsibility. Um, what's most of your interaction with a camera operator like?
Well, I have to tell you that, and I'm not just saying this because you are a camera operator and you were one of my favorite people on the set of
Oh,
The Harder They
thank
Fall, is that the camera operator is always one of my favorite people on the
you.
set
That's great,
because
as it should be.
it's a person who has many of the same concerns as me, and also a good operator is helps everybody. And when you're in the process of helping someone else, sometimes my problem gets solved,
Oh,
without
yeah,
having to
yeah,
ask you.
absolutely. That
When
makes
I
perfect sense.
when I first went to my first union jobs, I couldn't believe how I couldn't believe how it was amazing to me that there was an operator, there was a person who was devoted to the frame,
Yeah,
because
and to
that's not what
helping.
it's like in an indie.
And what you mean, meaning in an indie, you've got a director of photography who's also operating, who is
Yeah.
only focusing on that. Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely right. Um, uh, and as for newer camera operators, what do you expect from them, and what should that relationship be like?
Well, I expect if there's a problem that rather than shout it out and get everybody involved, because it's amazing to me the people that love to get into the screen direction, discussions,
Yeah,
who that morning found out what screen direction was, but
they
they,
just looked it up on their iPhone. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, and then they're right in there with everybody else, telling you, well, it doesn't matter, So
yep.
I would hope that, um, if there's an issue, it's something that we can talk about by ourselves. I mean, not literally by ourselves, but, in a more quiet way. So that at least if we see there's a major problem and we're heading in that direction, we can go as a united front to
Hmm.
present this to the powers that be, to the DP and to the director. So I want to feel like we're on the same team. And I always feel like we are in the same team. So the few times, and it's been very rare, but the few times when I've had an operator who's really not on my team, that's very difficult.
So this was my next question to you. What does that look like? I mean, what are they doing that they just not? I mean, is it the simple things of they don't care about continuity, they don't care about eyeline, or is there more to it than that?
Well, then not only do they not care, but oftentimes they take that opportunity to announce that and make you a ridiculous figure,
Uh, yeah, that's
you know?
yeah. If anybody learns anything from that, don't throw people under the bus. Don't throw anybody under the bus. It's
Right.
just not. It's ridiculous. Um,
Right. And it's one thing to say, I don't agree with what you're saying, or in this instance, I don't think it matters that we're crossing the line, or the DP has told me we are crossing the line.
yeah,
And that's what we're doing. And I go to the director and say, do you know that? Do you know what that means? And they say yes. And then I stop talking about it.
yeah.
That's
You've
very
covered.
different than,
Yeah.
saying something like, oh, here she comes. I
Oh,
bet we're
jeez. Yeah.
crossing the line.
Here comes the line police.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, because well, like you said, at the end of the day, if that's what they want to do, that's fine. You just want to make sure that a mistake isn't being made and this is being done on purpose and everybody knows that it's being done. Because the last thing you want to do is have the director get into editing and going, wait, what happened here? I didn't know this was happening, and they're in
Right.
trouble. So then you're obviously sending a note to editing going, just to be clear, everybody's on board that we're crossing the line or that, whatever the note is, that something
Yeah.
is out there.
Yeah. I'll tell them, this is across the line on purpose.
Uh-huh.
You have to just think about being a person in an editing room, and you're getting all this material, and you're assembling it very quickly so that there's
Yeah.
at least, you could see sort of the very broad strokes of the scene, and all of a sudden you get a shot that does seems like it doesn't fit in.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And at
And
least you can go through your notes and go, oh, okay, this is not supposed to fit in. They want
right.
this
Yeah,
way. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly.
That
Exactly.
makes
So it
perfect.
isn't it isn't telling on anybody. I'm not going to write down like names like,
Yeah. So how about when I'm on the camera and I'm doing a shot and they cut and I go, oh, I need another one. I soft set. I panned
Mhm.
off too far in soft set, and they go, no, 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 we're never going to use that. And I think to myself, oh, that's the famous last words. And then I walk back to the monitor and I go, hey, can you just do me a favor and throw in your notes that we soft set and everybody knows about it. Do you actually put those in your notes?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I
Oh
was
my
gonna
gosh,
wonder. I'm like,
yes.
yeah,
No, of
um,
course. But
yeah.
you're not the only person doing that, by the way.
Is that right? Are other people who's like make it hair and makeup or something or
Yeah.
wardrobe or
Yeah.
that doesn't surprise me, but of course I don't hear that.
Hair is saying, coming over to me, and saying, they wouldn't let me reset her hair,
Gotcha.
or
Yep.
like, and part of it is sometimes depending on my relationship with the director, I will, if they don't seem to be responding to that, I'll say, you know, Dave said we saw off the set. Did you hear him say that? And sometimes they'll say, no, I didn't
Gotcha.
hear that.
Yep.
Or they'll say like, yes, and we're never going to use that part of the shot. And I'm like, okay. But I
Hmm.
write that in my notes. I write every time they say it's not good focus. I write every time somebody says, and I like, in our headphones, we constantly have the mixer going, like plane, car. I can't hear those. They're mumbling,
Gotcha. Oh, okay.
and
So
I'm
you're
writing all that
constantly.
down. Yeah, I'm writing down like everything because, first of all, I have respect for what other people do, and
Hmm.
I respect that they care enough about what they're doing that they're telling me that.
Sure.
And they're telling me in good faith. So for me to be going to people like, okay, yeah, and then not writing any of it down would be really awful.
I ask somewhat facetiously because I always assumed that it was, but I figured since I have you, I ask if it actually happens because you do
It's like,
walk away and you go,
no,
yeah, they're never writing that down. Well, actually, I would think the only reason I actually might think that is because I'm going. You obviously have 15. Like usually when I'm saying that, you're like writing something else, because like so on that note, at the end of the day, well, sometimes if it's a big study camp day, I'm physically exhausted, but mostly I'm just mentally
yeah.
spent. And excuse me, I have to assume, I have to assume that you're that to the nth degree because it seems like mentally you're constantly keeping track of this and looking at hair and makeup and looking at wardrobe and looking at the cups in the corner and looking at and keeping all these notes. I mean, it must just be unbelievable.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. I mean, the the worst thing about it is that we have to go home and our notes have to be turned in that night.
So how much time do you have? I mean, I go home and I collapse. How much time do you have after work, after we wrap on a given,
It
on the average movie?
it can really depend, and of course the longer you do it, you get better at keeping up to a certain extent during the day, although that's its own problem because
Sure.
just when you'd really rather go over to Crafty and like have a 1 minute conversation with someone as another human being, you're
Yes.
there instead, catching up on your notes, but it's at least an hour.
Wow. So that's yeah. So I mean that's a long day already. But then and I mean mentally you're probably just making sure like okay I can't forget this and I can't forget that and I mean it just has to be this like mental checklist. So do you just kind of shut down on the weekends then?
Yeah, I mean, definitely have to go to the no stimulation zone. That's what
Yeah.
I call it. It's like you really, it isn't even like binging something necessarily helps you. It's because then
Yep.
you're watching a reality show and thinking like, that's not what she had on a minute ago. It's like,
And so actually that's a good question. Can you let that go when you're watching a movie?
yes, if I'm not working.
Oh, you can. Okay. Oh, but you mean if you see a movie on a weekend where you're working, you'll actually be sort of clocking all that stuff?
Yeah, I'll be doing continuity for the movie that's already in the theater.
That's terrible. Oh my gosh. Wow.
Well,
Um,
it's just hard to turn it off. It's like
sure.
what's different than watching it on it's the same. So, but if I'm like not working, and
Yeah.
this happened. A friend of mine, the same friend I was talking about before, she felt like she had made a big mistake in a movie, and she said, she told me about it, and she
Yeah.
said, when you see the movie, this is going to happen. I'm just telling you, I know it's there. Blah 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 blah. I'm watching the movie. The scene comes up. The scene goes by. I never saw it. And I knew it was there.
And you were even looking for it. Yeah.
But I was
And
watching the movie like a
but and,
person in a theater.
yeah. And but you mean she was saying it actually made the final cut or she
Yeah.
wasn't sure if it made. Okay.
No, no, she
Wow.
knew. She knew it was there. She was like, it's going to come up. And it's a scene when he goes outside and he leaves with the book bag on this side. And when he comes out, it's on the other side. And da da
Yeah.
da. So I already know the whole parameters of the entire thing. And I didn't. And
And you
then
still yeah.
no, it went by, and then a few more scenes went by, and I like someplace in my brain, I thought, wait a minute, I didn't see anything wrong with that, So there you go.
But I think that's what a lot of us do. I was saying to someone who was an operator the other day, like sometimes I think, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I'm an artist, but I feel like we're artists like right up against the canvas and we make some minor brushstroke, problematic and we go, oh God, the whole thing's ruined. but then when you step 20 feet back, you can't even see that, and that, I
Yeah.
think we all do that on some level, right? Like we're doing the micro stuff, and then we look back and go, nobody's ever going to notice that. But of course, I'm sure that woman, every time she sees that movie, all she can see is that handbag, because I know I'm
Yeah.
the same way with my operating. Have you ever had, and you don't have to say what it is, some monumental mistake like that that just sticks with you on some movie?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I have to say, mostly they didn't make it in
Gotcha.
because
Okay.
I would realize it and I would, I'll tell you an interesting story though about something that, because especially with the DI, there's things you can do in the frame to make the part of the frame a little darker, that where the mistake
Yeah.
is and you can't see it.
Yeah. Sure. So
And
with doing color correction and whatnot afterwards, you can kind of help that. Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And so I was doing Before the Devil Knows You're Dead with Sidney Lumet. And
Oh my gosh. Wow.
yeah. And, he was, we, my own father had passed away like a few years before I started working with Sidney. And I think I made another father. So like,
Hmm.
I just adored him. And he was my first director who was more famous than the actors,
Oh wow. That's cool. That's amazing.
which, it taught me a lot about how to work with a person like that. Cause you don't just like walk up to Sydney and say some kind of like bullshit, it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
but we were doing this scene and it's down in the subway and there's this big white piece of paper. And every time the actor pushed it across the desk, he pushed it across the counter. He did it every time until we got on his side and he gave this incredible acting take and he did not push the paper.
Oh
And I was heartbroken. And I said to Sydney, he didn't push the paper. He said, he's never going to give a better performance than that. And he said, don't you worry about it. And
oh,
he did something in the DI where you can't tell that he didn't push the paper.
wow. So there you go. But that's someone who has the full picture of what he can do, right? And my guess is he. I mean, I'm not putting myself in Cindy Mays, but I would think that his big thing is the performance is the most
Yeah.
important. And like you said, you won't notice the handbag because you're watching the story. And
The thing is, that's everybody's. If it's not, listen, like even if I never wanted to be a director and still don't. But if I were the director, even I would have to say, I'm sorry, but this was like the best acting take and I'm using it.
yeah, yeah, we're not going to look past this. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I've had directors say to me, I'm going to blow that up 10% and you're never going to see that thing that all of a sudden they were doing, like where they picked
Yeah,
something up and you're like, oh my God, like why did they pick that up?
sure, sure.
And the weird thing about that is often the very best takes, or many times the best takes, are when they do something different because they've had a new impulse and it's
Hmm.
causing them to behave in a slightly different way. And
Yeah.
that's the take. That's it.
Wow.
That's the take.
That's really interesting because now that I think about it, because also it's like they've probably done the master and maybe the wide shot, and now they're into the close up, and it's probably when they're going to bring, everything they want to bring to it, and like you said, and maybe that brings out a different impulse, and pushing the paper
Yeah.
across the desk doesn't happen as a result. Or oh,
Right.
that's really fascinating. So I mean, you've worked with these unbelievable directors. Is I mean, do you learn something from them constantly by watching them?
Yes. Yes. I mean, a funny thing that I've learned, which I don't know, it would probably strike Marty as humorous, but I really learned a lot about background from him, background
Really?
timing. Yeah,
Yeah.
because they'll say background, and the person will walk through the frame, and then because it's the time is right, and the director is looking at the actor's face and knows to say action, the background is gone, and it's never going to be on screen.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
That happens all the time. And I don't think I ever knew that until I heard Marty say, like many times to the ADs, we're never going to see that. Like you
Yeah.
have to put that person further back in the, or whatever. And I don't think that ever crossed my mind until I heard him say that so many times. And now I see it happen on the set all the time.
Oh,
And
it's
I get,
constant. Yeah, that's amazing. That's a great. By the way, a fantastic tip for younger operators because
Yeah.
I'm not gonna put myself on Martin Scorsese's level, but I will say as an operator, it always drives me crazy when they go background and action, and it's like half of the people have left the frame. But
Yeah, it's a
and
classic. It's a
yeah,
classic move. Like there's nobody
yeah,
in the frame. And because I'm always, Betty told me, told all of us, stick with the money. So I'm not really usually looking at the background that much unless they come really close to the main actors at a pivotal point.
sure,
And then I have to know, well, that's when they're there.
yeah.
So I just never thought about it. But then after hearing him say it so many times, and so now I have said to then other people, like, you're never going to see that guy, right? Because,
Yeah, you mean on some other show where
yeah,
one isn't keeping an eye on that. That's
yeah,
incredible. Yeah, that's amazing. And just because we're talking about Martin Scorsese, is he completely involved in every aspect? I mean,
yeah.
and I don't mean this in a bad way, but he seems like he's a complete auteur and a control freak, and that everything is
Oh,
very
he's not a
specific.
control freak.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah. I would say that isn't true. He's unbelievably collaborative, and it's there's a very wide open space for people to have ideas,
That's amazing.
including while you're shooting, and the operator have ideas, and so he's not a control, and the actors to have ideas,
Yeah.
and everything can change on a dime because somebody said something that, not even necessarily to him, but that he hears, that he's like, yeah, let's do that.
So it's
But
best idea wins, basically.
yes,
Yeah.
and you know I mean, let's be real, like 97% of the time his idea is the
He's
best.
probably right. Yeah, yeah. No, I get. I guess actually, to sort of restate what I think what I meant when I said control freak is I think that he seems like the type of person who absolutely knows what he wants the movie to be, what he wants the story to be, what he wants the scene to be. But that doesn't surprise me that in the moment, if something is better that achieves that he would lean into that.
I think he also, more than possibly any other person I have ever met in my entire life, which is going to sound hyperbolic, but this is the absolute truth. He is interested in everything.
Oh, really? That's
He
great.
reads voraciously. He
Yeah.
sees everything. He listens to everything. It'd be really hard to pull up a subject and go,
Yeah.
what do you think? And him to have no idea. You know what I mean? Like, so, like, he's the same way at work. Everything is interesting to him. Like, what's that guy doing back there? And hey,
That's great.
is this what people would do in this situation? You know, he lists, like I said, he listens to everybody, and he is thinking about everything, and he's interested in everything in a really surprising way.
Well, well,
If you've never met him before, you're just like, wow, like
yeah.
this guy's
On top of it.
he's he but loving that, like if you know about medieval something and you can tell him, he'll be thrilled to hear that from you. It's wild.
That's amazing. That sounds fantastic. Another question I had for you is because one of the things that, as a camera operator and you as a script supervisor, I think we share in common is we have to interact with the actors quite a bit, and
Yeah.
sometimes we have to interact with the actors in a way that isn't always how we would want to because we have to remind them of you mean maybe you more than me, but I do it as well. It's like don't forget to pick up the coffee cup or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, is there something you can pass on to newer operators who are starting out about working with? I mean, look, when you work with, and I don't know who it would be, but the when you work with Tom Hanks,
Yeah.
it's super easy, and he just how do we what do you need me to do or whatever. But then
Right.
there are other people who I know you've worked with that are not easy to talk to and don't want
Right.
to hear it, or by the way, just maybe not as people, but as their method, and they just
Right.
they're like they're in their moment. How, do you have any tips for how to deal with that?
Yes. I mean, one thing is, I would never go to an actor and say anything. If I'm filling in for somebody on a TV show, I'm going to go right to the actor and tell them the matching, because we're only going to do two takes. And so if the first
Yeah,
one didn't work, you got one more. if I'm on a feature, and especially if I sense that somebody, well, it doesn't matter. If I'm on a feature, I never go to an actor unless I tell the director I'm going.
Sure, sure.
Like, I'm not going to walk over and say, hey, by the way,
Yeah.
where the hell is your jacket?
Yeah.
So the director, and then I'm waiting for the director to say to me, don't do it, do it. And I would say to operators, like, if you're not under the gun and you have an actor that has rebuffed you, or even said something like, don't tell me that, or
Yeah.
whatever, I would go to the director, or I would go to the DP, definitely, if you feel more comfortable doing that, and have the DP go to the director and say, listen, if he doesn't, when he walks out on the other side of the road, we can't keep him in the frame.
Yeah.
And the director will either say, tell him, and now you have the backup when you say, hey, we can't keep you in the frame if you go out. And then when the actor says, hey, they're telling me I can't walk over, the director will go, that's right, you can't walk over there.
Yeah.
It's like you have to get your allies behind you. And your allies obviously are up the food chain to the top two people on the set, which is the director and the director of photography.
That's a wonderful way to put it. I mean, it's exactly right, because the thing is, you're probably gonna go down in flames if you do, if you step up and say something.
Well, yeah, because here's what you never want to happen, and I know this is where you're heading with it, is because we've seen it happen, not necessarily to us, or it has happened to us. She wants me to.
It's the worst thing in the world. But the operator told me to. Well, wait a minute.
Exactly.
How did this happen?
What? Well, I'll tell you what the worst thing is. If they were heading up to the good performance, and the director can tell they're one or two away, and instead what happens is they flame out on the next take, and they say, but the operator told me not to do that.
Yep.
Oh boy. Oh
yeah. Or then the other thing is if you get, well, okay, so just what do you want me to do? Because you want me to do this, and he wants me to do that.
Right.
It's just like, I don't want you to do anything, But no, that's this is all great stuff for, especially, look, it's great stuff for people like me to hear, but it's great stuff for younger operators to hear too, because you're going to get into that situation. You work long enough, it's gonna happen.
Yeah, even if you try not to do it, eventually we've all been there where, like you're just like,
I'm not even saying you're going to do the wrong thing. I'm just saying you're going to be confronted with, how do I deal with this? Because it is going to happen. But so something that made me think of it is pushing the paper across the desk, right?
Right.
You're mentioning that in the master, across the desk, and the wider shot, across the desk. Tighter shot, didn't do it in the across the desk. Do I automatically get up and say to you, hey, I just want to make sure, or do I assume that you've clocked that? Because obviously you're looking at it, but if it's something big, should I come to the script supervisor? Because I always feel like I don't want to tell you what your job is, obviously, but I want to make sure that this has been clocked and passing it on. Is it better to sort of double down on that?
Well, I can't speak for all script supervisors, because
Sure.
I know this actually varies pretty widely. And I'm always shocked when someone who's a script supervisor says to me, well, you know what? When they start telling me, I'm like, really? Because I am thrilled when somebody tells me something.
Wonderful. That's what I love.
17 people tell me, like, because it is funny, like, because sometimes the biggest thing in the world will happen, like, they didn't bring a sheep in, and everyone comes up to you and goes, did you see that the sheep wasn't there? And I'm like, yes, I saw that. Thank you for telling me. Whereas, like, something that you could really help you out, which is like some very small thing,
Yeah.
it used to be, honestly, it was easier when I stood by the camera, which is where we used to stand.
Well, I want to ask you about that in a second, but I do want to. But that is the reason I ask is because there are times where, like, it's like, all right, great, we're moving on, and you're like, wait, but you saw the elephant walk through the back of the frame, right? Everybody's like, there's no way you could have missed that, right? And then you'll mention to someone, and someone will, not necessarily a script supervisor, but somebody go, wait, what elephant? You're like, the one that's in the back, and
or sometimes the script supervisor, because they're staring maniacally at someone's hands, somebody who's like dealing cards, and you're trying to get the cards to work out the same way. So yeah, they don't see the elephant.
That's exactly right. So that's good. That's good to know because I mean, I always, even within the camera department, I always think, look, redundancy is always better because it's like, yeah, of course I know we're going to the 25. And it's just like, great. As long as you know and I know and we're all on the same page. So I think in all these departments, redundancy is better. So yeah, I would always err on that. But I want to ask you about that. So did you start out standing by the camera?
Yes. I mean, when I first started, this is going to make me sound like, I was D.W. Griffith's script supervisor.
writing on like a tablet of stone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It was really like it took hours to chisel that stuff in there.
Yeah,
No,
exactly. And
but
the sound was terrible. But no, so I mean, was it because there wasn't, you're just on projects that didn't have video assist
yeah, I
or?
mean, video assist existed. It wasn't, it
Yeah.
wasn't pre-video
No,
assist,
no, I know that.
but
Yeah, yeah.
we didn't have I wasn't working on stuff
Yeah.
that was $1 million, so there was no uh video
That's not
assist.
that's not where they were
And
spending their money.
right, and there
And
was no computer, and there was
yep.
no nothing, and there was no iPhone to take
Hmm.
pictures. There was nothing. And
Yep.
so, and this is something that pretty much goes, I can't speak for every script supervisor in the world, obviously, but I will say there's a generational difference between script supervisors who started on things without monitors and this, or recording monitors. And like, let's say today there's script supervisors that work on TV shows where they don't record things. They have better powers of observation because they have to.
They didn't have a choice. Yeah, yeah.
Right. And so
Yep.
you develop ways it's a kind of thinking, and it's automatic now, but it's a way of setting your brain. I mean, believe me, I love that there's playback because sometimes I'll be looking for something that we can get away with if it comes before like a certain action or something like that. This is where it gets into the esoterics of editing things. But
Hmm.
so I'll go to playback and I'll say, can I see that? Because I'm looking to see like, all right, he does it right before we can get away with it. I have to say something about it.
Hmm.
But from years of having to know what somebody did because there was no way to find out. Betty told me that what she used to have to do was when they had to do inserts and stuff, they would send a little strip of film and they would hold it
Really?
up to the
Up to
light
the light. Wow.
and they'd be like, all right, that's where his hand is and that's where the book. Yes, that's what they used to do. I mean, and
I
that's
ne-
only one generation above me.
I was gonna say I never thought about that, but that makes perfect sense. Wow, that's fascinating. Um, oh
Yeah.
wow, that's really interesting. Yeah, yeah, and that all just makes so much sense. I want to ask you because you and I talked about this beforehand. You told me that you had some advice for script supervisors who were starting out, and also that there's a mentorship program that I just wanted you to talk about because I think it's good to put all that out there, even though it may not be
Okay.
specific to camera operators, but you never know. We learn from it.
So I think what I want to say is if anybody, who's listening to this podcast has any interest in being a script supervisor, or there are books available and they are very good and interesting, and you can learn a lot about what it would be like to be a script supervisor. You can't learn how to be a script supervisor though by reading them.
Hmm.
If you read a book about a nurse, you would get a good idea of what a nurse did all day, but you wouldn't then go to the hospital and be like, I'm a nurse.
You don't want that person putting an IV in your in your
Right.
arm. No, that's
And
a very astute. Yeah.
I'm not pretending that we're as important as nurses because obviously
No, I
we're
get you.
not.
But there's
But
some information in between the two that's important.
exactly,
Yeah. Okay.
exactly.
All right. Gotcha.
So I would say that, and also I would just make the point that unlike every other job on the set, except for us, has a department full of people who are available to help you make decisions. We have
Yeah,
no
you're
one.
a department of one. That's true. Yeah.
And there is no one you can turn to. I mean, you can turn to the operator and you can say, can we can the person look this way or that way?
Hmm.
If the operator is wrong, or everyone, has a brain fart at exactly the same time, which, as you know, happens on day 60, whatever.
Oh yeah, and on day one, by the way.
Yeah, well, true.
Yeah,
I was giving
yeah,
us the benefit of the doubt.
yeah.
Anyway,
Okay.
there's no one for you to turn to help you. So you
Yeah.
must be trained before you go on the set, because every job that you go on, there's 100 people who are going to say
Interesting.
you were good or you were bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you go on enough of those, and you don't have to go on that many, and you have 300 to 500 people saying that you don't know what you're doing, your jobs will
Hmm.
stop.
Yeah. Huh.
So get trained. When I learned from Betty, this was back in, again, the right after the Civil War. It's starting to feel like that.
I hear you.
I paid $1,000 for the class,
Yeah.
which seems like a
What?
lot of money, except, that was what a script supervisor in the union made a week.
Hmm.
So her point was, I'm going to give you 10 weeks of instruction of 3 to 4 hours a week, the equivalent of a college class.
Wow, 10 weeks? That's
Yeah,
I assumed it was like a week or something. That's
no,
like a full, yeah, that's a full course. That's amazing. Actually,
yeah,
for
because
$1,000, that's not even that seems
no. And
pretty
her
reasonable.
point was,
Yeah.
one day, and now union script supervisors, there's wide variations, but, make close to that or over that a day.
Yeah, sure.
So if you, so take instruction, give yourself a fighting chance, because you're going to need luck. You're going to need the time when, for whatever reason, you get a call to jump up in your career. You have to be ready, because you only get that call once.
Hmm.
And if
Yeah.
you go, and it's one thing when people know that you're inexperienced, it's another thing when they think you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
How do you get trained?
you find a script supervisor, a union script supervisor. There are people who advertise online. You can call one of the IATSE script supervising locals. They're, listed on the internet, and you can
Hmm.
call the local and say, do you have anyone in the local who teaches? You can meet a script supervisor or see the name of a script supervisor in a movie, and you can find them online and ask them if they teach, and then you pay them to teach you.
Hmm.
And that's the best way. To
Interesting.
try to
Yeah, makes
figure it
perfect
out on
sense.
your own would take too long, and you're going to make terrible mistakes that really somebody could just tell you not to do.
Well, and also, like you said, it seems like, especially, and I wouldn't. Well, I don't want to say that. I was going to say I wouldn't have thought of it before this, but I just hadn't thought about it. But with all the things that you're talking about, those mistakes that you could make could be so catastrophic that they could cost tens of thousands of dollars to fix, or more, or be
Or
really
more.
problematic. Yeah. Um, that's great. That's great advice. And you said that there's also a mentorship program out there, right?
Yes. Well, I don't know what they do on the West Coast. I'm in
Sure.
local 161, which encompasses 24 states in the East, from Maine to
Okay.
Florida, and the District of Columbia and part of Illinois. So we have like a huge local. And what we were finding was that young script supervisors weren't getting the proper training. Because the other thing, I will say this, if you read online that somebody says, I can make you a script supervisor in a weekend, don't give them any money, because they can't.
Yeah.
They're taking your
That's,
money,
yep.
and they'll tell you a bunch of stuff, none of which will make sense to you,
Hmm.
and you'll be out the money and you still won't know what you're doing. But
Yeah.
anyway, so we were finding a lot of people that for various reasons got organized in, meaning they were on a show that was non-union and it turned union, so they got a union card, or many different reasons. And then they were coming into the local, and as I said, like, you're all by yourself on the set,
Hmm.
and it's a singular job. And so what we decided was, we're going to take script supervisors who have between 8 and 35 years worth of experience. And we're going to, if a person comes into our local, we offer them the option to have a mentor for a year. and they can do it 3 times. And basically, we just put them together and we say, show your mentor your paperwork, show your mentor your resume, talk about networking, talk about how to give a good interview, ask about all the things that happen to you on the set. You know, if you're on a set and the director won't listen to you, at lunch, text your mentor and say, the director won't listen to me. Help me.
That's
You know,
fantastic. That's
yeah,
amazing. Well, and the thing that you've mentioned a couple times that it just suddenly is kicking in is because you're a department of one. You know, if you're the fifth grip, you can watch the other grips and talk to the key grip.
right.
If you're a loader in the camera department, you know, it goes on and on and on.
Well, not
And
only that, but by the way, the DP, I've seen the DP talk to the operator,
yeah,
right?
no, exactly. That's
It
what I'm
goes the
saying.
other way too. It goes the
Sure,
other
no,
way
no,
though too.
no
Not only
question
up,
about it.
it
But
goes down.
yeah, but in other words, you're surrounded by people who, on whatever level they happen to be on, know what the job is, and
Right.
you really are out there on your own, with the exception, like you said, of maybe the camera operator being able to talk about screen direction or whatever, or continuity, and a couple other people. But there's nobody, especially as far as taking the notes. There's absolutely nobody to talk to.
Right. So if
That's
you're, you know, we want to set our newest members up for success, and we're going into our 5th year of doing this, and we've had in our local, we have about 227 script supervisors, and more than 75 script supervisors have participated either as mentors or mentees, which is a third of our membership.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
That's and that's I
amazing.
mean that says a lot. Of also that's really incredible. Wow, what a great program. And so, if anybody listening to this is interested, they just call the local and say, I'm interested in the mentor program.
No, you have to be in our local.
Gotcha. Okay,
We
sorry,
aren't teaching people how to be script supervisors.
I gotcha.
We're making sure that the members who have fulfilled at least the requirements to enter the local, that they're then not left on their own.
Gotcha.
So it's a perk of union membership for script supervisors who come into local 161, which is the East Coast script supervisors.
That
And
makes
I
more sense.
heard a rumor that 871, which is the LA local, might also now be doing a mentorship program. I heard a rumor. I'm not sure if that's true. But
Okay,
again, it would
well,
be you have to be in the local to take
yes.
advantage of it.
No, that makes perfect sense. I wish we had something like that in the camera local, because I think I mean, maybe for less of a reason, but it's sorely needed.
Well,
Um,
guess what?
uh,
You
yeah.
can start with.
No, well, we do. I shouldn't say that. We have a mentorship program in the sense that, it's you're going to get together for 6 weeks and you're going to talk about stuff or whatever. But it doesn't sound quite as all encompassing as what you're talking about. And I've actually been involved in our mentor program, and the SOC actually also has a great mentorship program. So they
Yes.
are out there. I shouldn't say they aren't. But that's fantastic. I have to ask you one specific question, which I feel like I would be missing out if I didn't, but I'm guessing you get asked this quite often. The Starbucks
Yes.
cups in the Game of Thrones
Oh my
episode.
God. You want to know something really crazy?
Yeah.
I went on to do a movie called Lyle Lyle Crocodile, which was a big CG crocodile, and it was a
Okay.
musical. So it was live action animation.
Was it based on the
To get
kids' book? Was it a kids'
Yeah,
book? Yeah, I
yeah.
remember that book. Yeah. Okay.
And the visual effects supervisor was the visual effects supervisor on the Game of Thrones. And
Okay.
I forget, there was a cup or something, and we're like, look, there's a cup. I'm like, let's take it
Sure.
out. I'm like, no, let's leave it and have everybody talk. He got really mad.
Oh, that's got to be a horrible thing.
He
Well,
got
but
really mad.
I don't. I never even thought about that. Why didn't they just digitally take it out
They did take it out for further episodes. Believe me, he told me they
eventually?
took it out. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. No, but I
He
mean,
was like,
so in other words, it was missed by the operator. It was missed by the script supervisor. It was missed in post.
my guess
It-
is this. My guess is that they saw it on the set too late,
yeah,
and they either couldn't do another take, or they didn't want to do another take or something. And everybody at the time said they'll paint it out. And the script supervisor wrote down paint out coffee cup, and
I
nobody
got you.
read the notes, and they didn't see the coffee cup, and the coffee cup went on television.
Yeah.
that, I mean, I said to him, like, shouldn't we think of this as a fun thing? I said, like, the whole world was talking about a coffee cup together and everyone was happy, like, for a brief
Right.
moment. The world
Well,
was united against the
yeah.
coffee cup.
Yeah. Well, not everybody was happy, but almost
Yeah.
everybody was happy.
But, like,
But
yeah, you really, like, and he was a very jovial guy, but, like, if you mentioned coffee cup, he turned on you.
wow.
So it's
Wow.
like,
So
okay.
basically, like you're going to craft and you're like, do you want tea? Can I get you tea? Like, you
Yeah,
didn't want to say
no.
like coffee.
Yeah, you don't want to
That's,
say coffee cup.
oh my gosh. It's so funny because like the next day was everybody coming up to you and going, how could this possibly have happened? Like, was
Oh
everybody
yeah,
sort of judging?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I have to say, like, I would be really surprised. I could see it rolling. I could see you rolling on something like that, especially like, a TV show. It's so hectic. And I
Yeah.
could see you rolling on the take. And then I could see, like, during the take, everybody going like, "Oh my God."
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, what I do not believe, and will go down with the ship, saying that there's just no way that the script supervisor didn't make a note about that.
It's the funny thing is, it's especially because it's that show, right? Like, Law and Order SVU. I
Maybe
can
there's a
see
coffee
how
cup.
I can see how there's a coffee cup you could blend in, and someone might even see it and go, "Well, I guess that's got to be okay." But it's like it's Game of Thrones.
Well,
There's
then they
no
had all
way.
the water bottles in that other scene. Remember the other scene where they had all the
Oh,
water
that's
bottles under
right.
the
Yeah.
chair?
It's amazing how water bottles, I mean, I hate water bottles to begin with, but from a camera operator point of view, water bottles just drive me nuts.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know if you do this, but just before I roll, I'll usually pull my head back and just sort of look around the room, see if anything
Yeah,
catches my
I
eye, because it's
try.
like they're constantly coming in, and people, and then there's the thing with and nothing against them, but the actors are like, "You seeing these sides?" And I'm like, "The ones on your lap, yes." And then they'll stick them in the between the couch, and you're like, "Oh, now I got to keep an eye on the cushion of the couch that it doesn't push down."
Yeah.
And it's just one thing after another. But it's that constant vigilance that makes people good at their jobs, I guess.
I
Um,
guess.
but but I figured I had a note, and I had to ask you about that because it seems like a. But I do appreciate the fact that you sort of pushed it off on another department, which is exactly what I would do. Because if you asked me if the camera operator saw that, I would be like, yes, and they said something about it, and then the
Well,
script
they
supervisor didn't write it
probably.
down.
I'm sure the operator, again, like, saw it after it was already going.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I
Like,
would think. Yeah,
here's the other thing we don't actually know. So have the feeling, as I'm sure you do, that they run, I would guess, at least 4 cameras at all moments.
or
I mean,
multiples anyway. Yeah, yeah. There's
there's
too
no
much going
way
on.
they're not even doing two. There's no way they could actually get that done with 2 cameras. They just
Yeah,
can't. So
yeah,
my feeling is somebody set that shot up, and somebody was walking, into another shot, let's say, and put
yeah.
the cup down, and you know you can't stop everything and say, like, there's a cup, like, you want to, but you can't.
Sure. Yeah.
And they rolled
What
on it.
and that actually brings up something very different from this. But I was just interviewing yesterday a great operator who's now retired named Dan Gold, and he was pointing out to me that when he was trained very early on, if something was wrong with the take, you turn the camera off. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we got a cut. I'm sorry. We got a coffee cup. We got a cut. I'm sorry. You can't roll on it. And that's not the case anymore. Now you roll on
No, I
everything
know.
because, and by the way, you brought it up because it's like, the boom starts coming in. I now hold my frame, which is fine with me because I used to hate it when you'd have to, move down for it. But because I know that they're gonna, and I'm not gonna cut because I know that they're going to be able to take it out.
Paint it out.
But that of course, as you pointed out, relies on everybody looking at the notes, everybody taking their time, and them actually paying. I mean, all these different things, and sometimes, as we see, those things don't happen.
Well,
So,
I tell younger script supervisors, if I'm ever talking about how we take notes, I'll say to them, put whatever's wrong, put the location in your notes. So, in other words, because you would be so surprised when you went to editing, because they're just not looking at that. And also, they edit on tiny little screens,
that's true. With the
and
location, meaning there's a coffee cup on the table next to his hand, as opposed to
yes.
there's a coffee cup. Oh, I see what you're saying. So it also brings more attention to it. So yeah, it's like there should be something to that. That's yeah. That whole experience is fascinating. Um, one other question I had for you, because you have worked with really, really big directors. Is it tough for you when you're working with first timers and people who don't have the body of knowledge that, Scorsese and Spielberg have?
Depends. If it just depends. It's really more about a person's sensibilities,
Hmm.
and um,
I
so
guess
it's
let me rephrase it though. I don't want, tough might not be the word. Is there like a reset that has to happen where you go,
yes,
okay, I need to be on top of a lot more things right off the bat until I figure out who this person is?
yes.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I would be that way no matter, even if it was like a very prominent director, because you don't know. I mean, also, even with a beginning director, I will think 400 things and say four.
Yeah, I gotcha.
You
Yeah.
know, I'm
I know
sure
what
you
you
do the
mean.
same
Yeah.
thing. It's like you
Yeah,
think so many things, but a person can't take in all that information. Some of it is you just can't say that kind of stuff to people. It's like there's a
yeah,
lot of different reasons why you don't say things.
sure.
But you know, if if somebody if things are happening and I see that the person doesn't understand, that let's put it this way, that's the hardest. When I'm working with a first time director, they have to believe me.
Yeah.
When I'm telling them that something isn't going to cut together, there's very few ways for me to actually demonstrate that on the set. I can sometimes, and I have done this, ask the video to paste it together.
So here, this is why it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Show, don't tell. Yeah. Yeah. I see what you're saying. Whereas obviously, I'm guessing you're not doing that with Scorsese and Spielberg. Um, but
You
like you
imagine.
said, you still need to bring up something that's a big concern. But at least with those bigger directors, that if they go, nah, it's fine. It'll be fine. I'm totally okay with it. You can actually trust that's accurate, and that it won't
Well,
end up biting them in the ass.
and if a first time director tells me they don't care, even if I know that they're saying that because they want me to stop talking because they don't understand, I will say, okay,
Yeah.
that's the director.
Yep.
That's the director's prerogative, is to say they don't care about something. And if they find out later that they care about it, then hopefully they're not just a jerk.
Yeah.
I mean, this is also why we tell, especially script supervisors that work on, low budgety things where everybody's learning. If you say something to the director and the director says they don't care, in your notes, you write that
Mar-
director knows blah, blah, blah.
yep. Yep.
But
And then you've got some recourse to say that
yeah,
I brought this up, and I'm sorry, but there's nothing more I could do. Yeah.
right. Because
Uh,
actually, there isn't anything else you can do. And it's disrespectful to, I always think about like if it was turned around on me,
mhm.
and I said to someone like, it's fine that whatever, because I know it's not going to cut in there or whatever, and a person
Yep.
kept at me.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be weird. You know what I mean? You'd be
Well,
like,
and
okay,
basically what it's saying is I don't trust your judgment. I mean, that's essentially what
correct.
you're saying. And like you said, that's not your job at the end of the day. Your job, and my job, by the way, is very much to go, I'm concerned about this. I just want to make you sure you're aware of it in case we need to change something. And if you're okay with it, then we should move on. And that's,
Yes.
and unfortunately nowadays more than ever, I get that more often, which is I need another why, because and it's, I don't care about that. And it's like, okay. And and I'll realize that, yeah, you don't care about it right now because you see this cutting a certain way in your mind, and it may cut that way, but you're now going to be forced to cut that way. So I wish I could do another take, but at the end of the day, I can't. And that's just the way it is. But oh
Just
boy.
about the last job that I did, I took over a job for somebody, and it was with another very famous director and, somebody that I don't know at all. And whatever. And he was very nice to me, but there were a lot of people smoking all the time. And so there was this endless problem of somebody would put a cigarette out and at what point didn't it,
Oh
you,
God, I didn't
you
even
know,
think about the
like,
cigarette. That's right. Yeah.
does it stop smoking in the ashtray? I mean, it was endless.
Oh my
And,
God.
no, it was a nightmare. And I forget what I said to him, like I try to keep that stuff down to a minimum. I talked to the prop department, I talked to the
Sure.
actor, whatever. But, everything. And I said something and he said to me, he turned to me, and he said to me, "Are you nuts?" And it made me laugh because I thought,
That's great.
you know, probably, and okay, I get it. Like, stop talking about
Yeah.
that. But he didn't say it like in a mean way,
Yeah. And like a joking
you know.
way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like
Yeah.
he had a list of 22 things, and that was number 25. So
Yeah.
he wasn't.
Yeah.
So it really struck me. I mean, I think he was surprised that my response to that was to like laugh, but it just struck me as so funny because it's like, yeah, kinda.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing is like the reason you're laughing is because like, yeah, actually I am because I can't believe that this is what my job is, but it is.
Yeah.
And then it's funny, I haven't done a movie where people have smoked in such a
Oh,
long time that I
it's a
forgot about that.
nightmare. Oh,
Well, I forgot about that whole thing is like you go into the close up and it's like, all right, well, where, oh, I mean, I guess you got to start with the cigarette half, half hang or like the ash hanging off and where it falls off. And
oh,
all that
it's
stuff.
really just true. Yeah, I found the aftermath of like how long something continues to smoke the worst part because it's like
Yeah.
by the time this person walks up it hits stop smoking,
Yeah.
ugh.
Oh, that's yeah. That seems like you'd be going home at the end of every night, just like neurotic, because of all the things you have to think of. But this is what we all do, and like I said before, I think it's because we're all standing so close to the canvas and being so meticulous that when you do step back, yeah, that that cigarette went out in that shot a little bit before this shot, but most people don't see it
Yeah,
beyond us
yeah,
because we've kept such an eye on it and gotten as close as we can. And the story is what you're watching. Hopefully, if you're not watching the story and you're watching the ashtray, you probably got a bigger problem with your movie. But that's another story for another time. Um,
yeah.
yeah, this has been really great. I really appreciate it. I've actually learned a lot, and there's a lot of great information in here. I thank you, and I want to leave you with the thing that I leave everybody with, which is someone getting into the business now, in any
Hmm.
department really, or maybe you 20 years ago, something you wish you knew, some tidbit on how to make it in this business.
Yeah, I think you have to be willing to work as hard as possible every day, whether you like your project or not, because in the beginning you don't have a lot of say about what you get hired on. And conversely to that, if a job comes your way and there are people involved who have a reputation, or if you've worked with them before and they've mistreated you or something, say no, because another job will eventually come.
I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. We'll be back soon with another great episode. Don't forget to check us out on theop.io for all sorts of information on operating and storytelling. So thanks for listening and have a great day.